Hello everyone, I'm Dan Webster. Welcome to MN Views. This is the first ever episode of MN Views. I hope you'll find it insightful and educating, while also being provocative and politely expressive. You have a sincere role in this show. MN Views is all about presenting independent opinion and commentary about politics and other events in and about Minnesota. You can follow this show and its topics on MTN, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and the upcoming mnviews.com. Neither myself nor any staff associated with MN Views receives any form of endorsement nor financial gratuity for this show. This way we feel true commentary and debate of political issues and events will emerge. Thank you for joining me today on MN Views. Well, folks, here it is, winter 2010, many months away from November 2nd's Election Day. I'm standing in front of the Minnesota Governor's Mansion in St. Paul. Why? Well, simply stated, this piece of property behind me and the office that goes with it is the coveted prize for this coming fall's election season. Oh sure, there's all sorts of other elections which will accompany the election of Minnesota's newest governor, but clearly, folks, the Minnesota governor's race in 2010 is the main event. Already upon us are the February 2nd caucuses. Amidst other duties associated with these political party caucuses is the beginning stages for selecting delegates to best represent the voting opinions of each caucus group. Then from late February through early April, each of the major political parties in Minnesota will hold local and regional conventions as a means of, intensifying their efforts in finding the best delegates to represent their region in each of the state party conventions. While you've just seen when and where each of the major political parties will hold their state party conventions, which will seek to determine who becomes each party's officially endorsed candidate, I'm already learning that many candidates who don't receive official endorsements from their own party may likely still run for governor in their party's own state primary on September 14th. In fact, the September 14th primaries might see the most non-officially endorsed candidates for governor ever in Minnesota. Why might that be? Folks, I'm not saying it will happen, but one big reason why it might involves the possible contrasting relationship of who party delegates believe should be the party-endorsed candidate versus the views of the broader population and whom they feel should be that party's official candidate for the November general election. The true winner of any political party's endorsement label entering the November 2nd general election is whomever wins the individual party primary races from September 14th. So who are the candidates for the 2010 Minnesota governor's race at this time? Well, as of this taping, the Minnesota DFL has 12 declared candidates for governor. The Minnesota Republicans have 7 declared candidates, and the Independence Party of Minnesota has 3 declared candidates. These are not and will not be the only declared candidates for Minnesota governor in 2010. Likewise, these 3 parties are not and will not be the only political parties presenting candidates on the November ballot. You might see candidates from the Green Party, the Socialist Party, the Libertarian Party, the Freedom Party, and possibly a litany of other political parties on this November's ballot. Only political parties whose candidates from the previous general election that received the minimum of 5% of the total vote can claim major party status in Minnesota. For the governor's race this November, only the Republican, Democratic, and Independence parties are stated as major political parties in Minnesota. So as we enter the February caucuses early in this election season, who might the frontrunners be for each major political party? Minnesota Governor Tim Pawlenty, a Republican, currently holds the office. He has stated that after 2 terms in office, he will not seek a 3rd term as Minnesota governor. Strong speculation is that the governor is preparing for a possible run at the presidency in 2012. Recent polls for the Republicans showed their strongest possibility for running and winning this year was someone who never formally announced he was going to run. Norm Coleman, the former U.S. Senator and former mayor of St. Paul, had a commanding lead in the Republican polls. However, as of this taping, Coleman since has decided he would not seek the office of governor in 2010. In recent polls, Coleman had about 55% of the Republican consideration. Undecideds were next, having about 20% of the consideration. Distant in these Republican polls were State Representative and former House Minority Leader Marty Seifert at 12%, and State Representative Tom Emmer at 8%. Now with Coleman gone, these two will be looking to capture all they can, as they and the remaining 5 others seek the Republican endorsement. Now for the Democrats. The DFL has 12 candidates vying for the official endorsement. Heading into caucuses, according to recent polls, only 2 DFL candidates truly stand out. These are Minneapolis Mayor R.T. Rybeck and former U.S. Senator Mark Dayton. These two combined have consistently made up just over 60% of the Democratic consideration over the past 3 months, and they've been running pretty close to each other during that time. Undecideds make up about 15%, and the remaining near 25% are led by House Speaker Margaret Anderson Kelleher, followed by State Senator John Marty, State Representative Tom Rukavina, and former State Representative Matt Intenza. The Independence Party, famous for having former pro wrestler Jesse Ventura as Minnesota governor, currently has 3 candidates whom, in my opinion, not too many people have ever heard of. I can't even find pictures of Ron Workoff, John T. Uldrich, and recent addition Robert Hahn to share with you. The only possible consideration whom I have a picture of for you is Dean Barkley, whom has run for both governor and U.S. Senator in the past 2 statewide general elections. However, Barkley has stated he's not going to run and wants to focus on building up the Independence Party. Mr. Barkley, with the group currently assembled for consideration, I'm afraid the Independence Party will lose their major party status after this general election. You're going to have to come up with a bigger name to help your cause. At this current time, entering the caucuses, here's how I see things regarding this year's governor's race. I truly believe at this time, regarding the general election, R.T. Rybeck is the candidate to beat. Rybeck has successfully shown he knows how to manage tough budgets in an even tougher economy. His ability to show Minneapolis having lower unemployment than the suburbs, the state, and the entire nation is something no other major city mayor can claim. While Rybeck has a socially progressive agenda, which I think Republicans can try to exploit, Rybeck also has shown he can keep spending down and effectively and continually balance a budget, which is something the bulk of moderates in Minnesota like to see. RT's only dilemma at this time is getting by Mark Dayton and the others during the DFL endorsing process. Dayton still has a ton of money, and while Rybeck has more volunteers pushing his message than all other candidates combined, money for the campaign is what Dayton has, and what every other candidate wishes they had. As for the Republicans, their only hope at this time is that Dayton, or someone other than Rybeck, does win the DFL endorsement. Why? Because then the Republicans can relaunch their often successfully aggressive attack ads against the DFL's tax and spend liberals. Remember, folks, we still are in a recession. While many people believe it was the President Bush and Governor Pawlenty administrations and their cut-at-all-cost policies which created this recession, the Republicans know full well the last thing a struggling voter wants to hear is more taxes. For the Republicans, I truly believe if R.T. Rybeck takes the DFL endorsement and or wins the DFL primary, their only hope comes down to one man, and a very popular one. Former U.S. Congressman Jim Ramstad would be the only person who could beat R.T. Rybeck in a head-to-head election for governor. The 60-plus-year-old standout would be able to gather the Republican base and join it with moderates to give Rybeck a sincere run for the office. But folks, only Jim Ramstad could do that. I'm not talking about some wannabe Jim Ramstad, nor some Ramstad-endorsed Republican candidate. I'm specifically speaking about the real Jim himself. And only himself. It's early in the election season, and caucuses are practically here already. I hope you'll choose to take part in supporting the candidate you like. I hope you'll join me on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter, and express your opinions and questions for my next edition of MN Views. I'm Dan Webster, reporting.